Why pay regular price when you can save money on every purchase with WagerBucks at both WagerTalk and Sports Memo? WagerBucks are now eligible for use on not just daily, 3-day, and 7-day passes, but all long-term and seasonal packages up to 1 full year. There are tons of options available for every budget and size of better, from as low as 90 gets $100, all the way up to 3,500 gets you 5,000. Save every day on every pick you buy with WagerBucks.
Happy Friday, everybody. The weekend has officially started, and we are here to take you into the weekend with week 2 in the NFL of Prop It Up. Joining me, as always, my fellow prop masters, Andrew McInnis from WagerTalk.com and Matt Josephs from SportsMemo.com. Gentlemen, we're coming off of a Thursday night game, and we always talk about the importance of line shopping and how important half points are and yards are and one completions. And it was on full display last night, especially in the prop world. Those points and having multiple books are so important. I'll just give you guys a quick example. The first quarter under was a play that I had. DraftKings had it at 7. FanDuel had it at 7.5. That half point ended up being the difference between a push and a win. And Andrew and Matt, I know you guys set these props just come down to the wire. So we just can't stress that enough, the importance of line shopping. Gentlemen, I have 3 fun stats I want to get the show kicked off with and find out which one is the most surprising to you guys. So stat number 1, Teddy Bridgewater is now 22-3 against the spread on the road for his career. That is the highest percentage of on the road against the spread for quarterbacks who have played over 20 games in NFL history. Stat number 2, Marcus Mariota had more fantasy football points in week 1 than Aaron Rodgers. And stat number 3, Jameis Winston had more passes that traveled over 50 yards in the air in week 1 than Drew Brees had in the last 3 years. So, Andrew, I will go to you first. Which one is the most surprising? Bridgewater against the spread, Mariota with more fantasy points, or Winston over 50 yards in the air?
Most surprising? I mean, I'm a Packers fan, so what do you think I'm going to go with? Obviously, it was horrible. In one of my fantasy leagues, I have Aaron Rodgers. It was atrocious. I would have actually went undefeated with all 3 of my fantasy leagues if he did anything more than what he did. It's been horrible hearing everything people have been saying with the Packers. It's a good thing we have a pretty good bounce back situation against the Lions this week on primetime. But yeah, not a good performance, Andy. And you kind of hate to hear people already saying he's mailing it in. I heard some people talking about the longest yard, that he's fixing the game. I don't want to hear that stuff, man. That's horrible. Like, it's a bad game. Obviously, getting outperformed like that from those 2 guys, that's weird. But yeah, bad fantasy night to say the least from Mr. Aaron Rodgers.
Matt, I'm going to come to you. Which one's the most surprising, the one that you least expected?
I think it's Jameis Winston. You look at this guy and his career and everything, and yeah, he looked really good. Once again, this is all part of the Packers thing, and I just think that you're just not going to get that every week from Jameis Winston, and that's why, we do this classic week 1 overreaction thing, and everybody's like, the Saints, and I don't necessarily know. I mean, I don't want to necessarily give anything away, but I think the Panthers are going to win this week. I think that the Saints are a little bit overvalued now. I think their offense is a little bit overvalued now, and I think people are just going to see what Jameis did and be like, oh, he's back. He's going to MVP and all this stuff. And I just, how often does Jameis put 2 of those games back to back against each other?
I agree. I think we can say he does just physically and mentally sound a lot better than he did when he was in Tampa. But yeah, this should be a really, really good week to see if the overreactions were indeed overreactions or if they were accurate. So, all right, guys, let's get into some prop bets and things that we're going to be looking at for this week and moving forward. Andrew, I'm going to come to you first. I really like this topic. You were going to talk to us about pass attempts and completions. This is something that you've been attacking this year. So talk to us about what you're finding and what you're looking for moving forward.
So one thing I really like about this specific prop, or these 2 props in general, is that you're not just betting on always, great teams. I've made the joke a few times that I cashed a ticket with Ben DiNucci last year of the Dallas Cowboys, and that's what I think is so interesting about this prop, is that obviously you're betting the number. You're going to get lower numbers for certain teams, but you're also going to get, props on the Lions. You have two teams playing that you can't really find a side wager on, or you're unsure of the total. There's a potential to look towards some of these prop plays on the either pass attempts or pass completions. And, when you're making the debate between whether you want to choose completions or attempts, you really want to, say, how will this guy fare? How is the pass rush on the opposition? What's the score going to be? Is it going to be a tight game? Maybe take completions. Is it going to be a one-sided game? Maybe take the attempts for the guy on the other side, because that's what's going to happen in some of these big games. And you look at Jared Goff for the Detroit Lions. I mean, I think we can all expect that they're going to be down a lot this season. They're not going to be involved in a lot of close games. And obviously that number is going to be adjusted, Andy, in as far as the prop goes. But Jared Goff pass attempts for this week sitting at 33.5. And you look at last week, this guy had 57 pass attempts, 57. So we got 33.5 this week. Last week was 57.5. I understand there's the whole thing about overreaction. But to me, in the prop betting world, it's a little bit different than the ATS world. I look at what I saw and I believe it. I'm not going to read reports on what should happen. A lot of the times I'm going to look with my eyes, watch Sunday football, and figure out, hey, this guy's a buy high right now, or this guy, he said a few weeks, but he's going to probably go a little bit lower. But like I said, Jared Goff on a bad team, but he's still a pretty good quarterback. How about Trevor Lawrence, 34.5? I mean, this is a guy that nobody wants to bet on, really. I mean, Tony Mejia is doing a great video at WagerTalk talking about the ratchet games, he's calling it, where he's finding an edge and finding an angle on these games that nobody wants to bet on and find a bet with. And this is a kind of game where I would look at and be like, you know what? If the number's there, if the spot sets up perfectly, we've got a Trevor Lawrence that had 51 pass attempts in week 1, and now we're seeing a number in the 30s again. And again, I'm not saying these guys are going to go out there and throw in the 50s for attempts every single week, but it's not the greatest matchup again for the Jags. They aren't going to have any real great matchups. I mean, last week was supposed to be the best matchup for them of the season, and they lose the game as 3-point favorites. So what I find really interesting about these props is that you're betting on good players, bad players sometimes, good teams, bad teams, and that's kind of the angle I want to look at. And we have to talk about the Dallas Cowboys, 100%. Let's talk about Justin Herbert. His completions is at 27.5 for this week. And for a little ballpark for a lot of people, we can see 22.5, we can see 23.5. So that's kind of where we're going to get the numbers we saw for Thursday Night Football last night. But, when I look at the Dallas Cowboys, they're giving up, you're going to be passing a lot on them. They have such talented receivers, such a great offense. You can bet CeeDee Lamb over his yards. You can bet some of these guys longest catch. But on the flip side, you're going to count. I mean, Andy, you can tell me, what was the magic number you said? I mean, how many games they're winning, the Dallas Cowboys, when they score 30 points? What was it, Andy?
Yeah, is you have to go back to the 2018 season to find a game that the Dallas Cowboys won where they scored less than 30 points. They haven't done it in 2 complete seasons.
Exactly. So that's my point, is that you're looking at a team like that is putting up big points. But on the flip side, we had a Tom Brady, and I know it's Tom Brady, but this guy had a lot of completions, a lot of attempts, So I'm looking at this week and looking at Justin Herbert over that 27.5 completions. He had 32, Tom Brady on the Dallas Cowboys last week, and I don't even expect this game to be as close as last week's was. So I feel like that was a winnable game for the Cowboys. They're going to wish they had back. And this week, Justin Herbert at 27.5 completions, looking at that. So last year we debated receptions over yards quite a bit on the show between you, Matt, and I. And I feel like this year in my head, it's always, okay, I already like this guy for some type of passing prop. Do I want to look at attempts, or do I want to look at completions? So that's kind of my angle here, Andy, and I'm really looking forward to diving more into these and trying to dissect if I'm more of a fan of these attempts for certain guys or the completions. But when we did those videos this week and you were kind of telling me about that magic number of 30, it just made me want to bet on the opposition quarterback, the opponent's quarterback for the Dallas Cowboys, completions or attempts, because they're talented, but they give up a lot of points, man.
Headline, Andrew McInnis compares Justin Herbert to Tom Brady. No, I'm just kidding. Hot take. No, I'm with you. One of the plays I grabbed last week was Tyrod Taylor over 1.5 touchdown passes because the Jaguars defense I thought was terrible, and he hit it before halftime. So it's a great way to make money off of some of the bad teams. Matt, I'm going to come to you. I love this headline, the title that you gave us for this segment. Going beyond normal NFL props. I love it. So talk to us about going beyond your normal NFL props.
Well, I mean, it's something that, I've kind of opened up my mind a little bit to other things that I would previously never looked at. Last week, one of my wins was I took the over on Najee Harris's carries. It was a low enough number because nobody really knew. Here's a rookie running back. We don't know what the Pittsburgh Steelers are going to do. And he obviously went over the number barely because of the way the game kind of went. But, I mean, I had previously never looked at carries. I had previously never looked at some of the other stuff. Unfortunately, last night I took the wrong quarterback's rushing yards, but I feel like there's some value potentially looking at some of the quarterbacks on their rushing yards. Some of the guys are just not going to run. Some of the guys are going to run. Last year, one of my favorite bets until it kind of disappeared was the under on Alex Smith's rushing yards. And nobody's really betting on that because, there's Alex Smith completions, there's Alex Smith attempts, touchdown passes, interceptions, all that stuff. And so it's kind of just opening your eyes and looking at look, Carson Wentz is a guy who's coming off of injury. He, in theory, has a really good offensive line, although he could be without both his tackles for Sunday. So he may not be able to run as much while you look at his numbers. And he was close last week. I don't know if he actually ended up going over his number or not, but looking at some things that you normally wouldn't look at. Najee Harris's carries, unfortunately, have gone up a bunch this week, so I probably won't play it again, but he had almost 100% of the carry share for Pittsburgh. So it's just kind of looking at things that you wouldn't normally look at, and then also kind of not overreacting to week one. Week one, we saw all sorts of things that probably wouldn't happen if it was week 10. The Niners game wouldn't be the way it was in week 10. I think the Niners just got bored and the Lions came back and nearly beat them. So I would just say don't overreact to week one, and also look at categories that you wouldn't normally look at because there's also some value there sometimes.
Yeah, great stuff. The prop market continues to give us so many options. I think that's why I end up having more props than I do in some other sports. Just there's so much more to look at. Matt, do you want to go on your Carson Wentz being on Hard Knocks in the middle of the season for the Indianapolis Colts? Would you like to talk about that now, or do you want to do that a little bit later?
Hey, listen, I mean, it's a guy that's a franchise quarterback. Hey, listen, as long as he keeps playing, I don't care what the Colts do. And listen, it's funny. The Colts fans are like, hey, he holds on to the ball too long. Hey, he's not very good making decisions. And I'm like, yeah, I could have told you that last couple of years. I mean, he's an overrated quarterback, and enjoy, Andy. He's your quarterback now.
Hey, breaking news. The guy holds onto the ball for far too long.
No kidding. Hey, I had a 4% play on Seattle last week. I didn't buy Carson Wentz at all. So he might be my quarterback because he's going to be a cash cow betting against until they release Hard Knocks and everyone's like, ooh, betting against that team.
I always find that funny, Andy, when you literally have a guy that's like, he's on your team and you always crap on him and you know that he's not good, or you don't like him, like in Matt's situation, then he gets traded somewhere else. Happens in every sport. And then the next fan base is like cheering them on. No, it's going to be great. It's going to be great. And then he starts doing the exact same things he was doing at the previous franchise. And then guys like Matt are like, I told you, like, don't be surprised.
We need the soundbite. They are who we thought they were. I mean, Wentz is who we thought he was. So, all right, my segment, I want to talk about first quarter unders. I'm really enjoying this prop. After last night's first quarter under hit, that's 3-0 for me this year. So I'm seeing that prop really well. And here's how I'm attacking it. The formula is actually pretty simple. Most of these first quarter unders, in fact, I checked all of them. You need 8 points or more. So, we're realistically looking at a touchdown and a field goal. And I feel like there's several teams that you can look at and just say, man, they got a perfect recipe to not allow or give up a lot of points in the first quarter. And we saw that last night. A little bit lucky that we didn't get a field goal at the end, but, they took a bad sack, which knocked them out of field goal range. So 3 teams I would recommend looking at first quarter unders if the matchup is right. The first one that I love is Pittsburgh. They just have the perfect recipe. This is a great defensive line, so they're going to slow down the opposing team's offense. It's going to be hard to get off the line early. And they have an offensive line that struggles. And we saw it last week. They struggled against Buffalo. That first quarter under hit easily. So I would expect the first quarter under to play out over 500 for the Steelers. Next team, New England. You've got Mac Jones, a rookie quarterback. Belichick and company is not going to put him in bad situations. And we saw last week they're going to run the ball. Damian Harris looked great. They ran for over 30 times, I believe. And their defense is great, and they don't even have Gilmore yet. So you've got an offense that is probably going to start off a little conservative, a defense that's going to make it tough for points to be scored. And I'm going back to our old team, the prop of the year, but I just feel like the New York Jets are going to struggle to be involved in first quarters that go over 2 scores, mostly because I don't see them scoring in the first quarter with Zach Wilson early on in the season. Maybe as the season gets on and they improve a little bit, but the offense looked terrible. They just lost their best offensive lineman. Speedy recovery wishes to him. But when I'm looking at first quarter unders and I need 2 scores to get over that total, I'm looking at Pittsburgh, New England, and the Jets. I have a few other teams, but those are 3 that I would look at. So, guys,
let me add to me, Andy.
Yeah, go ahead.
First off, 2 things. One, first off, remember last year, I think the Patriots only scored 1 touchdown at home. In the first quarter, they were the worst first quarter offense in the league at 2.4 points per first quarter. So it's carrying over to this year. And then the other thing, Andy, along the same lines for first quarters, I'll just take it over to college football. Any of the games involving the triple option teams, if you can get like a 10, 10.5, I mean, the Air Force and Navy played 2 weeks ago. And the first quarter total was 9.5. They have had games of 7-0 the past couple of times. Whenever you can get a first quarter under involving a triple option team who doesn't throw the ball very much, they're going to matriculate the ball down the field and take their time doing so. So I like that first quarter trend, and I have been using it with some of the triple option teams in college football.
That is I never thought about that. That is such a great point to make. Yeah, because the best thing about the first quarter is you don't have that mad fury to score like you do at the end of the second quarter or the end of the fourth. So, if they're a minute and a half away and they're on the 20-yard line on first down, you're probably going to get there because they're just not going to get it. So you're right. Teams that run down the clock, these are a great trends. So yeah, that can bleed over into college football. Absolutely. So great point, Matt. All right, so
Amy, I want to ask you a question on that as well, if I can. I'm curious if you would ever look at just consistently playing something or a team that's trending towards that first quarter under, or if it's going to be just like mainly matchup based. And I know that we're not going to auto bet things, for the most part, but with some plays like that with the first quarter, you will, and you have already from previous years found these trends. Have you ever thought to yourself, you know what, this team, like you mentioned the Jets or certain other teams, thinking like, hey, I'm going to approach this every single week and convince myself why not? And if I can't find a reason, then they're a look, or is it strictly matchup based?
Well, yeah, we can start this because this is going to be a topic I was going to talk about in my second segment. But yeah, I will just tell you right now, Pittsburgh and New England will just be automatic plays until further notice. Like if you get my player prop pack, just know that Pittsburgh and New England first quarter unders, as long as it's over this 7.5 mark, those are going to be included. I'll play them every single week happily. And the goal is to hit over 500. The goal is over 17 games. Can I get to 11 or 12 wins? If I can with those 2 teams, it's a success. So yeah, I will blindly play them as long as the number is right. So Andrew, promo time. Tell us what you got going on this weekend. I know it's big time stuff for you this weekend. What do you got?
Yeah, well, I'm super excited because people, always sleeping on the CFL. We've got the CFL. The season's pretty much halfway over. Nobody wants to hear about it, but I'm messing around with college a little bit this year with the clients. I literally always have bet college, but I'm just giving out 1 or 2 plays so far. a weekend, and it's gone all right so far. But we've got UFC, we've got, of course, baseball action. Of course, we've got the NFL, and the prop package is up. It's out for $19, but this is a great coupon code, 7-day all access coupon code McGinnis7 to get it for $69. I know we always say this on the show. We're always preaching this, but it honestly, it pains a part of me to see somebody pay $25 for one play when we're offering up right now for $69 using the coupon code McGinnis7 to get 7 days of every single play I release. I mean, that prop package alone is $19 every single play across all sports. There's going to be a 5% in there, which is $35 on its own for just $69, coupon code McGinnis7. So always a great time to check out these coupon codes. Grab a package, especially heading into the weekend. Right this time of year, September, October, November, December. I mean, this time of year, it's always a jam-packed weekend and a great time to hop on for a package.
Matt, what do you got going on this weekend? You got a great promo code as well, I believe.
Yeah, I do. Obviously, and we're going to get into it in our next little bit on the K props and stuff like that. But 7-1 in my last 8, the last couple of days, approaching 60% over the past couple of months, and we're going to keep plugging along with the K props. And if you get a package, I have a perfect 3-day code. Today is Friday. You get my MLB K props today. You'll get college football tomorrow. You'll get NFL on Sunday. Just use the promo code MJ29, and it's 3 days for $29. And I think that's a great package for you to give me a shot. Look, it could be a very good weekend. Hopefully it's going to be a good weekend. It could be a bad weekend. If you don't like the games I play, if you don't like my write-ups, if you don't like doing K-props, you don't have to stay for any longer than the 3 days. And so it gives you a good opportunity to give me a shot here. And just really excited because we've got a lot of college plays that we're going to release tonight. We've got some NFL plays that we're going to release tomorrow, making sure we get all the most amount of information. But I feel like, look, if you don't necessarily want to marry somebody, why don't you date somebody and try them out for 3 days using the promo code MJ29.
You can date Matt Josephs for $29. You heard it here first, everybody.
What an expression. What an expression. I like it. I like it.
Oh, it's great. One of the best sales pitches I've heard on here. You don't want.
It's kind of like flash dating. You know, you get 3 days to spend with Matt, and if you like your time with him, maybe you can try out the next 7 days. And if you have a great 7 days, maybe you can tamper with a month. And if that month goes great, maybe you can sign a 1-year deal. It's great.
Move in together.
I like that. Yeah,
you can
move in together for the year.
It's not really like buying access. It's more like just paying rent at the house. So great stuff. I got a 5% NFL play up. Still haven't lost a 5% NFL play career since being at WagerTalk. So proud of that. Looking to cash that one. Prop pack is up. And then I'm just now starting to advertise this, but I've been wanting to add tennis full-time to my portfolio and arsenal. I beta tested it for a long time, finally started releasing plays, and we are hitting 63% of tennis plays on an 11-2 run. So tennis is working out well, and some of these tournaments are late at night. So these late-night tennis plays you can go to sleep, wake up. I feel like me and Tokyo Brandon are starting to corner the late night sports market with some of these plays. So, all right, guys, let's get back into it. Let's go to Andrew. You want to talk about just some RB props, wide receiver props, tight end props, just a little bit across the board. What do you got for us?
Yeah, so I want to go with a wide receiver prop, a receiving yards prop. I know that people are probably sick of me talking about these completion props, so we might as well mix it up a little bit. I want to look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers team going up against the Atlanta Falcons, a team that I think Tom Brady has a decent history against. I got to double check me on that. But passing this Atlanta Falcons team is not good against their wide receiver position, especially all you fantasy owners will know it's a good opportunity to pop in a lot of receivers on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers against this Falcons team. And I'm looking at Mike Evans over 54.5 receiving yards. People always talk about overreaction week or don't react to things. And I mentioned earlier in the show that, sometimes I'm going to see somebody, get a bunch of receptions or get targeted more than usual and have some great, a lot of yards, or a quarterback throw the ball more than I expected. But in this instance alone, I didn't really see much out of Mike Evans. I think it was 6 targets. He had 3 catches. He had like 33 yards, something of that nature. But the thing is with this Buccaneers team, they have depth. I mean, this is what made them a successful team. This is what is so great, is that Brady has so many options to go to. And that's just what comes with being on such a talented team. I don't think anybody expected Antonio Brown to have as great of a game he did last game, making some big plays. And Gronk obviously getting involved, him and Brady, that connection they have. And Chris Godwin was heavily targeted. But I feel like this week will be Mike Evans' week. I feel like he'll be a huge touchdown target as well. So I'm going to look at him over 54.5 yards. And I feel like what's so great about having so many talented guys on that receiving core is that any other team, we're getting Mike Evans in like the 70s, 80s. This is a guy that's super talented. He can catch balls. He's going to be highly targeted. But in week 1, he wasn't. And I think he let a lot of people down. He only had 3 receptions. So that's kind of one angle I was looking at, Andy. And I thought about what I said last week on the show as far as being low volume. And I looked back at my notes and what I sent you last night, and I realized I said that I was going to mention way too many props. So I'm going to stick with that one, Mike Evans, receiving yards, and then have my best bet at the end. So back to you, but receiving yards with Mike Evans, 54.5. That's my top wide prop play of the week.
Matt, the K-prop master. So give us a little bit about K-props, something that people may be off their radar and absolutely should not be. You've been delivering for clients and for everyone's portfolio. So talk to us about what's working for you K-prop wise.
I mean, it's plain and simple, taking the overs against the Cubs and the Marlins lately. I mean, it's pretty ridiculous that how poorly the Cubs and the Marlins are doing right now, strikeout-wise. They kind of jockey back and forth for the first and second when it comes to K rates over this past month. And it's just, I mean, look, sometimes you just got to ride a trend, as you talked about with your first quarter unders. I mean, taking the overs, you look today, Adrian Hauser, you look at some of the other pitchers. They may not be glory pitchers, which is why you would back the unit size off a little bit. And then real quick, I mean, I've kind of done this long enough to realize, look, here's the big 3 books when it comes to this. You look at FanDuel. FanDuel, what they do is they basically raise the strikeout one prop and they juice both sides ridiculously. Sometimes they stick to the market number and they have things normal, but you kind of have to just compare it to everything else. DraftKings has everybody, so they'll even put out the ones that you don't think are out there, but the juice is a little bit different. Sometimes the numbers are a little bit different. They're the best so far. And then BetMGM, I think, is also kind of like the most normal of them all. They won't have all the K-props out right away. So really, it comes down to shopping, as Andy spoke about at the top. But make sure to go and have a couple of options when it comes to the K-props, because each book will have different juices. Each book will have different numbers. Some books will have certain pitchers. Some books will not. So it's just kind of a strategy we've learned over the season to have a bunch of different options here. But just keep betting the overs against the Cubs and the Marlins, and you're going to hit it like a 67-70% rate, it feels like, as of late.
Great stuff. Also, boy, if you've been playing any Bryce Harper over batting props, home runs or total bases or total hits, that's another baseball prop that's been hitting at breakneck speed. So I touched on this a little bit earlier. I just want to stress to people about playing these props every week. When you find something that's good, don't abandon it after 1 week. I said this during baseball season and when the NBA playoffs started, that I just hadn't done a good enough job with that. Like, I'll play the same prop and it hits like 3 times and it loses 1, and then I forget about it. And then it hits like 3 more times. So, Andrew, you mentioned Mike Evans. I made it a point that I'm going to play Mike Evans touchdown props this season, probably every week. He hit it in 12 of 16 games last week. He didn't get a touchdown in week 1. Am I going to be scared to come into week 2 and play it? Of course not. I'm going to play it again because I think it's just going to be a prop that hits over 500. And this goes into kicking props. I really enjoyed kicking props in the second half of the season. And I wanted to start off the year saying, look, what are some kickers that I think I can play every week? So Sanders and Koo were dynamite last year. They didn't get there last week, but I'm going to come back and play them again. But I do want to bring up Hopkins for Washington. This may look like a kicker to take every single week. He's gone over his made field goals and points both weeks. I know he had the weird miss with the offsides and he got another shot of it, but this guy's 6 of 7 for field goals and 4 for 4 on extra points for Washington. He's got a really, really good team to set him up for field goals. He's got a pretty decent defense, allegedly, on paper that should get some stops. And Heineke looked like the quarterback that can at least move him down the field, but maybe the drives sputter around the 30 or 20-yard line. So Hopkins is going to get a good look for me. I think I'm going to sprinkle him for the next few weeks and see what it comes down to as far as playing him every week. But so far, he looks like the best kicker to play every single week. So, all right, best bet time. Let's give out one of our best bets for the weekend, even though we've already given out, feels like 17 of them already. Andrew, I'm going to go to you first. give us your best bet going into week 2 of the NFL season.
Well, Andy, that's kind of why I looked at what I sent you late last night, and I said that I was going to mention like a touchdown score or a running back prop or receiving prop, and I was like, okay, I'm going to be giving out like 3 or 4 props in the show. There's no need to make it 7 or 8. So we'll go to my best bet here, and to nobody's surprise in the entire world, I'm going with Dak Prescott over 39.5 pass attempts this week. Look, this is the kind of example where I was planning on betting this a lot on the season. Andy mentions he's looking at certain prop bets and he's going to try and ride them. This is not an overreaction to 1 week. Do I think it's absolutely hilarious how many completions and pass attempts this guy had? I do. This is a guy that had 42 pass completions on 58 attempts in week 1. This guy had threw the ball 58 times. Do I think he's going to throw the ball 58 times again? No. But the good news is the number is 39.5, and they're facing the LA Chargers, a team that I believe will be involved in a lot of shootouts on the season. And I've mentioned this countless times about the Dallas Cowboys, and Andy mentioned that magic number of 30. They have a solid offense. They have some great, talented receivers. They just don't have a defense that can get off the field. And what happens with that is that they can't run the ball enough because they have to keep throwing the ball. The games are always close. Their offense can't build leads because their defense consistently gets scored on, and it keeps the game close. So looking at him with his attempts, and some might ask why not completions in this example, I just expect him to throw the ball a lot. I don't really see Zeke Elliott getting involved a lot. I feel like he will be more than last week, of course, but I'm looking at the completions at 39.5. And if you look at the Chargers, their week 1, how they did or how their opponent did, well, it was the Washington football team. So we know what happened with their QB situation in week 1. They didn't have that many attempts or completions, but things will be a lot different in this week. And this is the prop, Andy, I'm looking forward to riding. 58 pass attempts in week 1 from Dak Prescott. Let's get over 39.5 in week 2.
Matt, give us your best bet going into the weekend for week 2.
I'm going to make it simple. Rookie quarterback Bill Belichick, Jets team total under. We may find some value eventually on this first quarter over on the Jets to score, but not yet. I understand it's in New York. I understand the Patriots defense didn't look great, but rookie quarterback. Zach Wilson didn't look very good last week, and we hit the under on their team total last week. And as Andy said, you just got to sometimes keep riding trends. And so rookie quarterback, Bill Belichick, Jets team total under. That's the best bet for the weekend.
Love it. Of course, I'm going to be rooting for you as well, since I'm going to be on their first quarter under most likely. My best bet, give me Cole Beasley over 4.5 receptions. He's just become a favorite of Josh Allen over the last couple seasons, especially in big games. 7 catches in 2 of their 3 playoff games last season. Finished the season going over this total 5 out of 8 games. Last week, a target monster against Pittsburgh. He got 13 targets, had 8 catches. I also think this is going to be a tough matchup for Buffalo. The strength of their defense is in their secondary. So Beasley, I think, fits really well into this game plan. A lot of their short out routes or inside short 5, 6, 7-yard passes are going to be really important for the Bills. I like him to get to 5 catches and even more. I think this number is vastly put at too low. So I'd grab that one, as I'm sure the line is going to move on that. So, All right, that is it for week 2 of the NFL props. We're propping up. That is Matt Josephs from sportsmemo.com. That is Andrew McInnis from WagerTalk.com. I am Andy Lang from WagerTalk.com. Good luck on all your props. Hope you guys have a profitable weekend, and we will see you next week.